And us. Come past. Come back. And welcome everyone. As usually, the invitation is open if anyone would like to swap the chair or speak from where you are sitting and drop a couple of pointers our way, just to keep the Bob style, which is the introduction for anything between 20 minutes and 1 hour. That was traditionally the way he would do the introduction, and then we open discussion, brainstorm, ask. No takers today. Okay. We have the. You're gonna. Okay, so we starting from the obviousness of our own existence, which is 100% certain in 100% of the cases. I had a conversation with someone a few days ago who would say that, well, I can't say, that I'm getting it already, or I did slide the demon completely. And I say, wait, stop here. Because the one who wants to get it is never gonna get it. The I that wants to get it, understand it, comprehend it, own it, the presumption is already that there is an I and that it doesn't have it right now. Those are both wrong assumptions. There is no I and there's nothing to be had. So I ask him, okay, so, and he says, I am not quite as confident in that as you are. I say, okay, how confident are you from 0 to 10 or from 0 to 100%? How confident you are that you are existing right now? Oh, yeah, 100%. I say, so am I. Where is the difference then? How come, where is the space here in any doubts or any search or any future in which the I will comprehend it any more than right now, if there is already 100% confidence in the fact of your own existence? You will see that the only obstacle in recognizing that this is it, justice and nothing else, is the idea that there is more. And he was saying already, he actually has, I love the call that we have, the calls that I have with him, because you can see the light shining forth. You can see, like, week after week, things get lighter, easier, more naturally resolving, and the insights that are flowing to the surface are just showing up that the recognition is solid. Yeah, I can't say, well, okay, just rest it. But what you can say, well, definitely that I'm not that attracted into dwelling in the thinking and trying to work it all out. I say, well, yep, that's it. And everything is easier, everything is lighter, everything moves on much quicker, much more naturally. There is not as much tension. Everything is just more full of light. I had another conversation another day with someone who said, if there is that idea of luminosity or the radiance, kind of suggests that you should expect some sparkles in the surface. And when you look for it, you may actually start finding it, but isn't it a placebo effect? Isn't it something that is just appearing in a visual field? Totally. It doesn't matter. It is an experience. If it wasn't here yesterday, it doesn't matter. If it wasn't here forever, every time you check and you look, it doesn't matter. It's rubbish. But the certainty of existence, that's something that never diminishes. Even if the field of awareness is completely covered, I'm just going to check if we are audible. if it's completely covered with concepts and trains of thoughts and a roller coaster of life, of dramas, is stealing the show, the certainty of existence is never not here. If not for that existence, obviously there would be nothing. I see no complaints. So this is really what it all boils down to. Everyone is already 100% sure that they are. And there is an idea that maybe there is some demon to slay, and maybe there is some I to do some more work, to get more pleasure, to get more fulfillment, or more luminosity, or radiance, or I don't know, superiority. The presumption is also in the spiritual circles that self-realization equals sanctification. So there is an I which will realize that I am one with God and I am a totality. And from now on, obviously, all the stuff that was judged by society as undesirable or nasty, like burping or farting, is never going to show up again. Or anger or shame or guilt or whatever is never going to show up again. Because now I am equal to God, and obviously God can't fart or experience anger. God is not omnipotent. There are limitations to what God can experience. Obviously, it can only experience what is written in the advisory books for teenagers, how to behave. So yes, it is laughable. God as omnipresence, omnipotence, omniscience, experience itself through everything and everyone as it pleases, with no limitations. There is nothing that he can't do or experience or exhibit. And recognition is not that I realize something or someone, is that there is a realizing, there is a being, seeing, hearing, happening, and there is no doer of thereof. Everything that happens the same way that the planet is moving around the sun, the same way as the cells in the body are replacing each other. Every interaction is happening in the same way, be it fight, be it anger, be it competition, be it resentment. All of those things are happening according to the conditioning of the vehicle. The bat will fly, and the fish won't, unless it's a flying fish.
Actually just glide.
They just glide, that's right. So people who were conditioned, one of my favorite examples of the bullfighters in Spain, who are conditioned to charge the red blanket, will continually charge the red blanket. So bull does not have sense of self that needs to be transcended, and it still charges a red blanket. So if there is charging in the body, and there is a response coming, preconditioned to charge the red blanket, at which point that is supposed to change, and why? Why would it? Who is there who desires that change or pursue that change? And of course, nothing stays the same. So it does change, even in the bull, who never assumed to be an individual separate entity. It still changes, although the changes may not be very visible. But everything, every pattern changes, because everything constantly affects everything else, and every situation reconditions or adds to the conditioning. Every experience updates a little bit the model that this machinery is projecting out. So the changes are happening. And yes, there is a difference, and there is a big change in when there is a realization that there is no one looking, and there is no one hearing, and there is no one thinking. It is just happening. Some of the changes and some of the patterns drop away immediately. Some of the other patterns may be rewritten a little bit faster, and that applies to self-referencing. When you see there is no self, naturally referencing the self that you already see there is not, drops away or eases off. It may still show up in a situation when you hear Bob saying, I prefer lamb chunks than something else, using the I, using the body as a reference point, or using the whatever other preferences is natural. But there is no belief in any of those positions. There is no identity as such. And that's a day and night type of a difference. That's a paradigm shift type of a difference. Whether the whole universe spins around the imagined self-centered me, and the obsessive thinking is all about me. What do they think about me? What do I think about me? How do I position myself in the best possible situation? How do I gain approval from other people? Or even projections and imagination of I, the center, the self, and the obsessiveness of that self, versus witnessing the unfolding, in which there is still reasonable care about the body. There is still reasonable care about relationships, just like you see in the kingdom of animals, who also form alliances in their peer groups and compete for power, or mate, or do all those things without obsessive thinking and narration referencing everything to me. Those are natural behaviors. They don't have to reference anything to imagined driver of that vehicle. And we have good morning messages, and Maria says, love you, cat. Sweet. Thank you. And this is really the whole non-dual investigation, is the way of putting or giving a credit where credit is due, and putting the miracle of existence in its appropriate right perspective. And that can't happen with looking through the mind, the thinking mind, the constantly analyzing mind. So what is it? What is that mind? It's the capacity for thinking, capacity for imagining, capacity for comparing, calculating, computing, projecting future, resolving problems. Is a fantastic, wonderful capacity. A capacity for storytelling, beautiful capacity. It is to be appreciated, but when it runs the show, when it is somehow assumed by life, because there's no one else who could assume it, to be a master of the show, obviously it hurts, because now there is no insight into its working, and there is unconditional acceptance of everything that it says. And as much as the intention behind every action and every piece of narration of the mind is always love of being, which is self-preservation and thriving or chasing pleasure, even though it is always that same principle, that principle is executed in a way that is extremely suffering causing. It will, for example, tell you how it loves and cares for the survival and thriving in a way, you bloody failure. Why would you say this? Don't you see this is gonna get you fired, you idiot? Doesn't sound very loving, does it? And when it is completely unconditionally accepted as the truth, well, it kind of feels suicidal. I'm the bloody idiot. I'm a loser. Oh shit, how am I gonna live with myself? That's not a nice place to be. So that narrative capacity, or that thinking, imagining capacity, which really has that one objective, love of being, and executing that love of being, when it is put in a position of a master or a leader, it causes psychological suffering. That is the only cause of psychological suffering. But when it is put in a position, in its rightful position, of a servant, of a tool, that is serving the survival, that is serving the love of being, then you can see, or you can hear, the same old commentary, and it doesn't apply to the me, because there isn't one. it doesn't judge or label any entity that should take credit or feel bad for it, because there is no one there. It's just a navigational tool expressing concern for the survival of the body. And the survival of the body is necessary for the life to experience this magnificent dream called life. So seeing the mind as a tool, as a servant, being curious about it, brings endless joy, because there is no sentence, no word, no behavior that is not recognized as the expression of that love of being. And knowing the mind, which Bob always stressed, know the mind. Just give it a little bit of attention. See how it functions. See what triggers it. See what makes it respond in which way. Just watch it the way you watch something, just even the way you learn about your new car, how it responds, what puts it out of balance, what makes it malfunction. Just get to know it. And the process of knowing it is not only absolutely mind-blowing, fascinating. A process of knowing it is also freedom from the mind, because that helps navigating, that helps using the car. And it doesn't necessarily cause any judgment. It's a curiosity about it. Or doing exercises and seeing how, whatever, any form of learning, of having the attitude of a learning or student or learner, having attitude of a childlike curiosity, openness, not only is joyous and very satisfying in itself, but it is also an attitude of something that is not the mind. The mind, its function is to judge and compare and compute. Something that doesn't judge is the space-like awareness. So looking at the mind and its ways, the ways it functions, from that registering capacity or the cognizing capacity, the cognizing emptiness, is not only joy in itself, but is also experiencing of freedom from it. There is not the mind that watches the mind. Of course, unless there is that ambitious, judgmental aspect of the mind, taking a position and imagining I am now the observer, and I am observing whatever arises for me, and then include the observer. Observer is also registered. The same as there is a registration of the temperature in the room without thinking about it. There is registration of the position in which the spine is aligned without thinking about it. There is knowing that does not require thinking or narrating. And that knowing the mind from that sort of attitude of openness, letting it reveal itself, show itself, that also has incredible healing power, incredible power to actually resolve emotional wounds. When there is no pushing under the carpet, there is no explosions, it's just that space for every emotion to show itself in its full glory, be it a sadness or be it a guilt. How does it appear? There is a mental activity going on. There is a contraction. There is tension. Interesting. So now that emotion, without even labeling it anything, but is met, is like a child screaming for attention, is given the attention. Is not given the negative attention or shut up, I don't need it, which may be required at some points. I mean, the emotional regulation is a sign of emotional maturity or health, and every child learns that by observing the environment. Some may be less lucky with role modeling, But obviously, there are situations in which it is actually reasonable to suppress the emotion and not lash out and beat the child, or not cry on your job interview. But when the situation calls for it and is appropriate, and there is an opportunity for just learning about that magnificent projector, just getting to know it, just being curious about it, you'll see how the whole dream come into existence. You will see how similar it is when you are sitting and revisiting the past or imagining the future. How similar it is to any other form of dreaming, any other form of imagining. You will see how any contextualizing of a situation, drawing a bigger picture of a situation, which is a wonderful capacity, very satisfying too, or reviewing different models like physics or psychology, they are the same way of dreaming. There is the way the mind is dreaming, is creating more like overlay of interpretation to that incredibly mysterious, unknowable moment of happening, of seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling. Only by watching the mind and knowing the mind, and also seeing when it flips, how it responds, how it reacts, is just, it brings up such an obviousness of the way the whole manifestation functions. And also, it brings the obviousness of non-doership. You can, seeing how the mind works, you will see how the judgment statements arise, how you're not thinking them, how they arise through the associations or comparisons, subtle computing happening, how that subtle computing is repetitive, how it shows the pattern in thinking, the pattern in thinking that has been preconditioned or learned through imitation. It's an incredible ride to know the mind, watch the mind, see how it functions. You'll also see how it always divides in the range of opposites, how everything is evaluated between, black and white and all the shades of gray, between good and bad and all the shades of what's in between, how limited it is in its functioning, even though the dreaming is seemingly limitless. But the main guiding principles of that dreaming are always the interrelated pairs of opposites. You'll see how the whole projector is the interface from that singularity of life into that diversity of the dualistic manifestation. And you'll see how it is done without the doer, how it happens spontaneously and naturally. And then, of course, the natural recognition is it all happens within that cognizing emptiness, within that field of registering. And that is what you are 100% certain that you are. You are that field of cognizing emptiness, or the capacity to register, in which everything appears. The mind and its working, the projector and the projected, the seeming seer and the seeming seen, because they always arise simultaneously. There is singular seeing happening, and there is interpretation arising straight away. There is I, and there is not I, that I am seeing. There is hearing, singular hearing happening, the capacity of hearing, singular. And within that capacity of hearing, the mind is projecting. I am the one that hears, and the sounds out there are that which is heard. The two things. I am unchanging, sitting here, and the sounds are changing at different speeds. So that's the proof that there is two, because there are different parameters. But they all arise within that singular field of hearing or capacity of hearing. Capacity of thinking is an incredible, incredible capacity. Within that capacity, thoughts are arising, and at the same time are naturally related. They're my thoughts. Obviously, you don't have the same thoughts as I do. That's the proof. There is two. There is I, the thinker. And I do nothing. I just have thoughts. The thoughts are changing, but I'm here. I'm the same. I'm not changing. But really, is there a thinker? Is there a seer? Unless the mind comes and reports on it. And this is again another beautiful, probably the most well-known and profound way of Bob's invitation to investigate the dualistic nature of the world by checking what exists if I don't think about it. Is there a past if I don't think about it? Is there a seer and a seen unless there is a thought, unless I think about it? Is there a thinker and a thought unless I think about it? And this is not just a slogan. This is to actually see. This is to actually pause for a moment and notice. Is it? Is it a seer if I don't think about it? Is it a seen if I don't think about it? The seeing doesn't disappear. But does it have those divisions? Does the field has a division? Can I really separate myself without the thought? Am I really this body without the thought? What do I know without the thought? And there is quite a bit of knowing happening without any thinking. There's so many things that is being effortlessly registered without the necessity for the thought. If you look at that cat here next to Dean, I assure you, she's acutely aware of every material object in her vicinity, otherwise she wouldn't be able to navigate around it. And she's also chasing for some pleasures.
It's an amazing display of the cleaning program.
Yes. Yes, and without the thought, there is obviously, anyone can actually see, without the thought, the breathing is happening. The seeing is happening. The body doesn't disappear. The hearing capacity is still there. Nothing is actually missing or lost if the thought is paused. But the idea of being separate is impossible, because that's an idea. That is not an experience. Separation cannot be experienced directly. It can only be experienced as the idea, as the imagination. And then I can say, yes, but there is a body, and here is another body that is not mine. Well, really, there is a field of knowing. The body arises in that field of knowing. This and that and every other body. That is the direct experience. Yes, but this one is always there, but this one is not always there. The other bodies come and go. What does that prove? Does it change the field? Does it touch the field in any way of what bodies appear or don't appear? Yes, but this one is always there. Really? I don't remember this particular body being here 50 years ago or being in the same shape. Apparently not one bone, not one cell of a bone was there 7 years ago. So whatever appears in the field, whatever appears on the road when you're driving your car, you change your car, the experience of existence doesn't change. You change your costume. Or people lost legs in the accident. They don't report being any less as the presence, as the awareness of presence, as the field of knowing. Having bigger body or lower body, if you gain 30 pounds, does it increase your sense of presence, your sense of existence? It's so
when you sleep.
Or when you sleep, yeah. It's so unrelated to the vehicle that is used for experiencing and expressing of it, for the vehicle that can be shaped, that can be changed, that can be tempered with. You can take ADHD medication and your worldview changes, or antidepressants and the worldview changes. Needless to say, get drunk with psychedelics and the worldview changes. Tempering with the projector changes the projection. How disconnected are they? How separated are they? How separated is the mind from the environment if every thought that ever occurs is related to the environment? Try to have a thought unrelated to the body or whatever is around it. Try to conceive of anything that could be unrelated to that one field of knowing. The separation is an idea. And because it is an idea that has been believed for years and been rehearsed and has been passed on through imitation, learned, and never questioned, of course it's taken for granted. And the sense of independence of physical body or the car or the coat is practical in navigating in the dream, because knowing the truth and being free in watching the dream appearing and happening and unfolding is one thing. The dream doesn't end when there is a realization that it is the dream. So the dream character continually deals with whatever is thrown its way. The dream character continuously experiences pains and pleasures and everything in between. And how wonderfully so. What's wrong with that? The freedom is the freedom to realize the dream for what it is. It's not a freedom from the dream. It's the freedom to the dream. The dream doesn't need fixing. There is nothing wrong with the dream. There's nothing wrong with the dream character. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with anything. There is nothing wrong anymore. Full stop. That was the Nisargadatta's pointers of realizing that the whole dream unfolds as it does without any doer. There is nothing wrong. Even if you are attacked or bullied, even if there is injustice or war or political tension, or your husband doesn't love you or whatever it is, there is nothing wrong unless you think it is. And unless the thinking is believed, still nothing wrong. But the experience is there, that there is a doer, that there is a person, and that everything is wrong. So the realization that nothing ever happens, that there is just unfolding of the dream, and the wonderful privilege of being that registering space in which the dream unfolds, including the dream character, which is kind of an avatar, that is kind of as close as you get to the projector. It is a projector itself. Getting to know that dream character from the position of just being that registering space, from the position of non-judgment, of the curiosity. That is what all the so-called esoteric scriptures say when they suggest, oh, you gotta love yourself. You gotta be self-loving. You gotta first learn how to love yourself, then love others. And then people are spending decades trying to talk themselves into loving some ideal of what they are, and creating another duality, I that loves and the I that is being loved by the I that loves. There is no one there. But when that space-like awareness is really looking and is really curious and is looking at the petals of a rose, or is looking at the night sky, is looking at the reflection of itself, with that openness, it can't help but see the beauty. It can't help but love the reflection of itself. And if the same space-like awareness is looking at the mind, is looking at the dreaming, the vehicle, the projector, in the same manner, with open curiosity, it can't help but see the beauty. in the woundedness, in the dysregulated behaviors, in the triggers that cause anger or outburst of irritability, in the symptoms of whatever, ADHD or menopause or whatever it is. If there is no judgment, you see the miracle and you can't help but just be mind blown. That's beautiful. And if it is beautiful, well, the beauty is recognizing beauty, acknowledging beauty. It's one of the purest form of love. Because who can't not love what is found to be beautiful? It is just another channel of experiencing and expressing love. And seeing the beauty in the way the vehicle is responding, the vehicle of pedophile, the vehicle of violent, homeless schizophrenic, is the vehicle that has been created by the circumstances, by the environment, and at every moment it does its absolute best to experience and express love of being, the survival, the thriving, the craving pleasure, or craving whatever absolution, which is a form of pleasure too. And we're not gonna dwell in a difficult philosophical concepts of or justifying any actions, because there is no actor of any actions. There is no doer of anything. Just like we don't judge a tsunami wave, we don't judge the earthquakes, which are also a product of their environment. The tectonic movements or the volcanoes erupting, they are a product of the whole environment, just like a Stalin or Hitler or whoever else. They are products of environments that nothing can be excluded from that hot, what do you call it in the chemistry, when you just kind of creating the alchemical sort of a substance. Everything is included. So no one is guilty, no one is to be blamed, and it is not to say that in that guiltlessness there won't be any isolation or there won't be any punishments. Those are also another way of love expressing. Any self-regulating systems, and all systems are self-regulating because it's the same life essence behind them, can be seen from the same way. Instead of judgmental mind, which has its place in everything as well, saying and seeing constantly what is wrong with the world, what is wrong with me, what is wrong with schooling system, what is wrong with politics, what is wrong with climate, what is wrong with everything. You can see the self-organizing universe and seeing all of those perspectives simultaneously, being the seeing the mind arising, seeing the responses, seeing the beauty, all of it. And the dream doesn't get any better. It goes on until it doesn't. But there is an invitation to see the dream for what it is. And that is really, really easy when you make that basic distinction. What exists when there is no thinking? And what is the product of thinking? And then you will see this present moment, ever fresh present moment that is never not here. The content of the present moment, which is seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, and thinking. If the attention is here with what is, attention, alert, there is so much joy and pleasure in just being, just taking the breath in and out, realizing the vehicle, just being present. And then there is the thinking, the overlay, discussing politics, history, future. Nothing wrong. That's beauty too. But that's the overlay. That's the dreaming machine. That is also happening on autopilot. Nobody does that either. But if there is a little bit of relaxed attention, just staying in the background, noticing that, this mind activity of engaging, of the party, of judging someone, or backstabbing someone, or getting angry, or getting disappointed. That one is happening in that field of being, in that field of knowing right now. And that way, love of being is expressed right now. Wow. If there is any degree of freedom, of noticing, of registering, of cognizing, of being space-like emptiness at any point, that degree of freedom is the degree of self-realization. And even though there is no degree, there is no one who can self-realize in 5% or 20%, because there is no one, full stop. But we all can relate to the fact that, when the train of thought takes you down the rabbit hole of guilt, shame, remorse, and suicidal depression, there is a different level of vibrance and vitality and appreciation and love of being than when you are in love with this moment as it is, with the dream as it is, with or without particulars of the content, with or without any need to fix it, alter, modify, correct it. Just discovering it. Being in the state of a learner, of a curious, open discoverer, letting it unfold. If the judgment arises in it, let it unfold. Without engaging, without entertaining it. Entertainment of the thinking happens. But if there is any degree of relaxed attention, witnessing presence, witnessing the entertaining, that's the degree of freedom. And there is no good morning all, there's no more comments from the community, and we were already, introductions over. so now, yes.
No, I don't have anything to say but to repeat what you said about being in love with the moment as it is. Being in love with life as it is, right now.
Yeah. Seeing its beauty.
How beautiful.
Yeah.
Without that, tendency for projection of change, wishing for, hoping for in the future, which is based on a dead past.
Yeah.
And will never arrive. And just being in love with what's happening right now. Beautiful. Cats are really putting on a performance today. Just Pesto trying to climb into everybody's bag. Just being themselves. No, I don't know. As soon as you left to go to the bathroom, he was digging in your bag and he went to climb right in. Hey.
He even wanted his ears played with before. Yeah. And other times he just doesn't turn up near you, does he? But today he's very, very loving and very, very loving and very, So there you go. Yeah, no, that's good. Are you waiting for me to say something?
Yes.
Yes. All right. Oh, okay. Well, okay. I suppose, I'll say, Bob used to always say, "How did you get here?" And you'd say, "Oh, the internet or something." And he goes, "No, knowing." And I suppose knowing got you here. And really, as I shared earlier, I've had a lot of trouble with my car. And, well, not a lot of trouble, but, but there was always a knowing that I knew that somewhere around there'd be someone to help me. And I found a mechanic, and he's really good and he's been really helpful. And someone said, let go, and, you know, I've already spent a lot of money, but it was that trusting. I always knew there was something in here that always knows. And I guess most of your life, I suppose, I can't speak for anyone else, but I can only speak for, you know, me, whoever, you know, we go along with things, but at the same time, part of us doesn't want to know we don't want to be there, or, you know, we go along with that, but knowing that really we should be going that way. And, you know, since coming here, it's that trusting of, you know, knowing the truth and being in the moment and really, you know, understanding life. And really everything is a reflection of who you are, and really just trusting in the moment, and what's wrong with right now if you don't think about it. So, yeah.
Yeah, beautiful.
I heard a comedian the other day who summed life up in 2 sentences. And he said it's a nightmare that lasts for 70 years or so, and then you die.
Wow.
So it's a different interpretation of the dream.
Yes, yes. But it doesn't have to be this way, and that's what has been demonstrated by Bob and shown us to see in so many ways. It doesn't have to be this way. You know, even if the nightmare, even if the interpretation of the dream up until now, let's say, up until yesterday was, oh shit, you know, I'm a victim. This was all nightmare. Everything that happened to me or didn't happen to me was wrong. I didn't get the villa. I didn't have the Porsche. I didn't have the millionaire husband. I didn't get children. I didn't get this. You know, some minds are conditioned to be so dysregulated in focusing on lack and focusing on ugliness and missing out on the appreciation and beauty. The moment the realization happened, the whole redefinition of the dream is automatic. Like, I believed I chose my husband, I chose my career, I chose my friends, I chose my spiritual path, and I was diligent in obeying all the instructions and meditations and sadhanas and everything. The moment mind opened up, it was naturally, instantly obvious that I haven't done any of it. That there was no I choosing the school or choosing the career or choosing the partner or choosing. There was choiceless awareness. There was dream unfolding. There was no doer of thereof. And even the self-victimizing, you know, I still have pretty, not that vivid and not emotionally touching, but still a lot of memories from really dark, shitty childhood, as if it was someone else's childhood. But there is no denial that this shit took place. But the idea of my life being a nightmare is unthinkable, because there is no such thing as my life. There is just life. Life living itself. And what a beautiful twist in the nightmare, that could at any point when the light penetrates that thick veil, thick layer of interpretation, of mind drawing that thick layer of how everything is wrong, how everything happens to me, for a reason. And there it goes, more of the story. Why? How I deserved it because I was bad in the past lives, or because I'm being punished because I had a negative thought and I'm a sinner. And whew, what a ride. And sometimes from the life's perspective, building up that thick layer of suffering is a beautiful we could say foreplay for the really, 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 really good escalation or the peak experience. Because, and this was, I think, Bob had very similar experience from speaking with people for nearly 50 years and pointing it out, that there is a lot of people for who self-realization happens in a one big blast of deep darkness of a suicidal depression, ending in a one moment and just lightness, which is unimaginable. And that was his story, and that was my story, that suddenly, I never breathed that deeply. I don't need to sleep anymore. It's like everything suddenly is so much more colorful and bright. The whole density of darkness lifts in one blast. But if there are people who were looking into it for long enough, and the layers of pain were slowly lifted, the realization that things are just, playing up, and dropping off happened quicker and quicker. Yeah, there is no foreplay of that immense suffering. There is no 1,000 miles with the stone in your shoe that you later on take on and experience that suddenly you can almost fly. The dawning or the penetrating of that truth happens the same way it happens in the metaphor of this doll made of salt, dipping into the ocean, slowly dissolving. Every dip dissolves it slowly. So there is no peak experience in the ending of suffering. But there's also no one who cares or gives a shit which way, or have preference which way. It doesn't matter, because there is ultimately nobody who experiences self-realization. There is no self that is realized. The realization is that there is no self running the show, that the show runs itself. Therefore, the no self is every self, is everything. And that's the beauty of it, waiting for the peak experience because it happened to someone. Well, really? You could always get a little razor and cover yourself with wounds and put salt into it. Maybe your chances will increase. This is not a recommendation, it's a joke. Or getting into emotional abuse or prison or something. If the prerequisite for the huge peak experience is the dungeon, is the crucifixion, drop the idea or the dream of a peak experience. It isn't necessary, and it doesn't happen to anyone. It's not going to happen to you. It's not going to happen in the future, and there is no you. Just this moment as it is beautiful enough, and it will never be the same again. It will never happen again. You'll never be at this particular age and the fitness of the body. You'll never be at this particular moment in the dream, even in the broader context. And in that particular moment of a breath and the oxygen moving through, even that's just a thought, but the experiencing of it. There's no need to wait for anything different and anything else happening in any other time than now, because any other time than now is imagined. That's the layer, that's the overlay. The personal story is the overlay. As much as it can be loved and honored and appreciated, it gets so much better when it is loved and honored and appreciated as what it is, a story, and not the truth, not the reality. If there is no bondage of story, the way you watch the movie about someone else and you love every bit of it, the same way you can love the story of this someone else or this someone else, love every bit of it, every wound, without believing it to be reality. Still no comments. Come on. Questions.
No, it's okay.
Oh, go on, Tony.
It's nice to hear my vision description for a change. And I like the way that helped to clarify the distinction between the Big Bang for some and they're not for the others, because it was a new kind of newish description compared to the usual. It just happens slowly, over years, which doesn't say much. But here, there's also, because it's a tortoise kind of set up, whatever it is, low cortisol, whatever it is. There's also never been the expectation of a big bang either. Like, going to the gym does nothing for me. Cortisol, whatever. So, yeah, I don't know how common, if that's similar for all the people who have the slow path, or if they get enough of a big bang occasionally to be looking for one, or if there is generally less expectation of a big bang in those who don't get highs and don't get lows. Which is nice. It's a nice place. I always recognise it's a very nice place to be, because people will come along and say, I'm so emotionally like everywhere that I can't even stop to even do any letting go or any of this, can't even take the initial steps because I'm so emotionally, crazy. So I felt very grateful that I wasn't, but yeah, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, it does actually. I'd imagine it would probably spare you from a lot of psychological
Great, very
suffering.
happy. I don't care if it's still going slow. I don't care if there's a lot of like pattern dropping to do now. Even though there's been no sense of me for 9 years and my whole life, no sense of free will, there's just the universe unraveling. It's always been like that. But there's a shitload of pattern dropping to happen, because there's a lot of reactions and discomforts, and they will come up in exactly like "what's wrong with me" phrase. It came up last night. It was, the notions coming up were more about what's going on under the surface, that this ill health is doing this particular thing right now, like the headache and the whatever, and the not sleeping and so it wasn't really thinking it was a me person. It wasn't thinking is there anything a me person could do about any of it. But there was still that discomfort and that reaction, and that, I don't like this, that like, yes, there were some of those kind of like maybe mini me kind of reactions.
Like a bull charging the blanket.
Yeah, it's not the major me. There's no belief that there's an I, but there's like a mini me, like complaint process going on that is located here, very definitely here, and I don't want it, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a hallucination of self.
Yeah, but it's not a belief in that.
Yeah, that.
It's a funny. I think it's a new category that has to be like represented more. Maybe nobody's really got a grip on explaining that one very well in anything I've read or heard. So, yeah.
No, I love your explanations. But yeah, and the arising of the sense of self, or arising of the reference point.
Yes.
It's a wonderful function.
Yeah, because that just doesn't come up here. Yeah, that arising doesn't come up. That one that's usually talked about. There's never like, oh, there's a sense of me still. And it never shows up in the 9 years since I had a look one week, oh yeah, about 3 or 4 5-minute sessions of looking for a Tony running around and not seeing one. Yeah. And then every time it ever gets mentioned in the room, thousands of times, there's always an automatic looking in here that goes on. Always kind of has been. And there will always be an automatic like respect for everything that arises as a possibility and a checking. Yes. And there never has been any little Tony running around in any one of those thousands of checkings that have just taken place. But there is definitely like a sense of, whatever doesn't want this right now to be happening in that moment. And in that moment, when that thought's arising, there is an awareness of this is just the universal energy doing this. Yeah. So it's kind of like another spot. There's not this is me, but there's not this is just the universe, and no response, if you know what I mean. No reaction. Yes. Yeah. So.
Yes, there is, even the sense.
Like a little inner onion, but yeah.
Even the sense, like taking an offense, or sense of something really being hurtful, or sense of things really being personal, or sense of the mind producing a complaint, and that complaint is related to this vehicle. All of those things arise and fall away in different manner to different people. But yes, can you ever find someone who owns that, the little person to which it applies, or is it just an arising in the narrative? and arising in the emotional field.
Yeah, and I get the third one, but not the first two that you just said. It's examples.
Yeah. And this is really, the well-functioning body-mind machine. I can tell you, if I step on the pesto's tail or I will yell at the cat, there will be a sense of that being personal, because it is addressed to be, it is meant to be. And
I don't think I get that though. It just doesn't feel personal. Like, personal to me seems like, I don't know, there's language, and you quite often correctly mention language, but I think in that case, personal, it doesn't feel personal in that there's no one doing it to me. Not even the universe, because it's just, universe unraveling is such a deeply seen thing here. Although obviously that's loaded with concepts of how that might happen, but it just feels like that's happening right now. But it's not kind of personal. But I like that third one you said. It's like the notion arises that relates it to this vehicle.
Yes.
And there's
it's like an interpretation.
This vehicle doesn't want it, and this vehicle isn't recognized purely as this vehicle at the moment, in that moment, but it's not recognized as a personal that I think most people mean personal to be either. Somewhere in the middle. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, it is a conundrum with the language, because even the sense of things being personal is impersonal. It is just an arising in the field. The sense of something being personal is arising in the field. A moment ago it wasn't there, and in a moment it will not be there. So it's just a wave, and you label that wave in some way.
Yeah, the label comes up in a way that it's a little more than what an animal would get. But less than what most people get when they mean personal.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, who knows? Definitely the narration, the story that reinforce that sense of things being personal will keep it longer. And Bob was always illustrating it by, like using thought to reinforce emotion.
Story doesn't really come up, because then immediately, if that thought, what's going on here, it's like, oh yeah, that's just universe. So story doesn't actually really get started. But in that moment, there's still something less than story, but it's more than straight chemical reaction. Yeah.
Oh yeah. But even
straight clarity.
Even a subtle story or subtle way in which things are, how long that sense lasts in the body, are preconditioned. Some people are preconditioned to hold on to their wounds for a dear life forever. And some are preconditioned to drop very quickly. Some would be preconditioned. And of course, that is changing constantly. It's updating constantly.
They don't want this, don't like this aspect. Yeah, can go for quite a while here. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Until
and there's no doer in it, as you know.
Even though it feels like no doer at all.
Yeah. It's just going on as it has been.
But it's not the pure clarity, because there's obviously that reaction going on, which is why there seems to be just, I don't know, there's no why, but there's a movement here to drop all those patterns and reactions in the universe. It's just been a curiosity for about 20 years. Like, what would it be like to be free as possible? What would that be like? That sounds interesting.
Beautiful. Anyone? Anything? Objections? Oh, yeah.
Thanks, Kat. Terrific discussion, and the simile that came to mind is like we follow this investigation, and it's like looking for gold. So you can occasionally you might come across a nugget, but most of the time, probably for most of us, we're panning for gold, and we're washing, and the gold is coming out of the pan, and it's a slow process, but you're accumulating gold. And little by little, it all adds up. And like Bob says, like the sun is suffused with light and self-shining. That the enlightenment comes gradually and could also come in a burst.
He used to also say, he used to always say, split the word up to enlighten, because you're already light. You're already light itself. So I think it's just a knowing who you're not that happens.
Yes.
And then you come out as pure gold.
Yes.
Because you are gold. You know, you already are gold. And I've had this discussion recently with a friend about enlightenment and, you know, being close to people who know. And I go, you already know. Do you know you are?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Well, is that the only thing you know for sure? Yes. Well, the rest of it's a story, really. But, you know, it's as was said before, it's interesting to watch the play of consciousness roll out, you know, and watch life itself shining the light of, you know, in energy on those patterns, and how, you know, you never did anything. Well, there is no you to do anything. So, you know, what happens is, you know, you go, oh, there it is, there it is, there it is. And, you know, just all of a sudden, no more questions, no more sort of thinking you have to get something, no more, you know, it's just a watching, you know, it's just a watching and responding to what is. That's how I see it. You know, and anything that's concept is from the past, just a memory, including the memory of me, and anything that's anticipated and imagined is also a memory of me. So it's just watching how consciousness plays out and watching how what comes up is fascinating, really. And it's, you know, it's all what is. It's all life itself unfolding. You never had any doership. You never had any choice. There is no you to have a choice. You're just life itself, really. That's all you are. And it's interesting what comes up. It really is interesting. Yeah. And being, knowing, loving to be. And then the Nama Rupana just plays out. The name and form just plays out. That's it.
Jesus. Hi. I don't really have what sort of talk about. The non-duality is a topic, isn't it, for today?
Yeah.
Is that today's topic? Thank you. So I guess you started the meeting with quite simply the fact that that you are like in that conversation, you know, having the certainty of your being, and that was undisputed. And like it's every meeting Bob started was with start with the fact that you are that, or we don't teach you anything, we don't tell you anything, or be certain that you are, and that you are-ness is this, is the aliveness, is the very fact of existence itself. It's like it's undeniable to everyone and everything here. It's the basis of what the whole point of this whole meeting is. The whole point of all the teachings, all the it's really ridiculous, because imagine like thousands of years of teachings and scriptures and gurus and pointers and methodologies and groups and religions and ways and poetry and love stories and magnificent expressions to point to the absolute simplicity of this absolute existence. And what is this existence? It's the aliveness, it's the nowness, it's the fact that
this is, that you are this. This is self-evident. It's so obvious and undeniable that it's missed. How the hell can you miss it? How can it be missed? Because it's the basis, it's the substratum, it's the background, it's the foreground. It's everything, and everything exists within this as this. So starting with the fact that you are that implies that everything in this appearance is that, and it's in this appearance that you can't be the chair, or you can't be the body, or you can't be anything specific, because it's the existence, it's the whole show that appears. So what are you in that show? So therefore you can't find, then I'll say, oh, well, I'm the little character that gives thoughts in the back of my head. But that's an appearance within that same show. And the show itself goes on whether there's a character or whether there's no character, whether there's a seeming self or a big self or a diminishing self, or and it's just it's quite incredible. Those the other part, there was a few things spoken today about watching the mind and see how it functions, how it operates. And Kat like really went into the depths of watching it, and all the it's an amazing show watching, and it's really interesting because to watch, you can't watch as the mind watching the mind. You can, but it's just a thought. So you can really only watch from a level outside, behind, away from, or not, or watching it within something else. You can't watch the mind. So all the idea of a me is all a mind is a thought. And so which thought would you be? They're all just appearances. And if you're the thought, I am watching the mind, that's the thought. So that the watcher appears in the cognizing emptiness as it's described. And the cognizing emptiness is this, is the same aliveness, nowness, sense of being, undisputed fact of this life, essence. So there can't be watching. There's no watcher as such. It's life itself, watching itself as thoughts and patterns. And everything is a thought, and everything is a pattern. And what is the pattern? And you mentioned like enlightenment, like the pattern exists. It seems like it exists as energy, as light itself, vibrating in chairness, bodiness, thoughtness. Like whatever that thought is just a pattern of energy, and everything seems to be appearing. So then the word enlightenment, there is no attaining enlightenment. The fact of your being is the enlightenment itself, because it's illuminated this being, and this being includes the body, other bodies, a world, a universe, and every thought that could ever be conceived or understood about it is included in it, and yet it's none of it, because they're empty, like light refractions. They're just vibrating patterns of energy. And how does one come to realize this? There's no one to realize it. So like you were saying before, just looking for a self is crazy, but there is a process apparently that seems to go on, and finding a self that is no self to find, in the obviousness of the fact of being. And so the whole show, everything like starts as a complicated thing, and then builds into all these stories of the ways in which we can find what already is self-evident, self-obvious. All the methodologies, practices, techniques, whatever, all eventually are made of the same stuff. So everyone is made of the same stuff. I am made of the same as you, and it's incredible, like this oneness, this one essence. It's isn't it amazing that if there's no separation, then there can't be a dean who's a good guy or the bad guy or the smart guy because everyone's included in that. If you want to call the identity is that one essence as everything and nothing. So there is no, find the reference point in that. There can't be a single point in which it starts, and that's why it's boundless, because there is no point in which it begins, and there is no limit where it ends. And it's so fascinating, and so fascinating the way it all works, and this interrelated oppositeness. If there is a thought that appears that this is good, it immediately means that there is a bad. Like it's implied, it's embedded in the same thing, and the same applies with everything. So, which perspective can be true? Which perspective can be correct? Which perspective can be right or wrong? There is no right or wrong in that sense. So, and if there's no right or wrong, if there's no perspective that is true, there is no. Oh, but the real crux of this is there's no one doing any of it. So, so not only is it, it's like everywhere you turn, it's the same thing. There is nothing. There is emptiness. You cannot find a solution, an answer, any kind of position, a resting place, some sort of place of center or point, a reference where in which it begins and originates or creates from, because it's just that. There is no beginning and end to it. So that time distorts and there is no time as well, because the immediacy, all of this is described in the immediacy. And I guess I'm just speaking to this thing here. And I really don't know what I'm saying, just describing the obviousness of the situation and the essence of why we meet here, and in this non-dual meetings, and I guess there seems to be like a process, or people come here and there's a sense of understanding that, but this isn't an understanding. All understanding appears in the sense of being itself. It appears in that emptiness. There's no understanding. There's no final understanding. There is no ultimate understanding, and there is no one that knows anything more than anyone else that can teach you or show you, because it's the obviousness of existence itself, life itself, the beingness itself, the sense of presence itself, that is undeniable, and all motions, notions, and ideas of trying to resolve it in any kind of thinking, trying to believe in any kind of thinking to be true or real or correct or superior or inferior or becoming, is vibrating patterns appearing in that one essence, in that and in that sense of being, which is the shining force, is the main show. It's the whole bloody thing. And I guess this so simple in a way, isn't it? Like we come here to realize the very, very basic, the most basic thing, it's so close, it's beyond close, because it's not close, it's not far, it's not above or below or in or out or light or dark. It's just the sense of aliveness, beingness, and it's in a sense it's also palpably real, and also unreal, because it's empty. There is nothing that you can really grasp. There's nothing that can be held on to, nothing that can be actually believed in. No belief is true, absolutely no belief. There is not one belief that can be true. And even just that in itself, isn't it so obvious that the only thing that you can rely on, the only thing that is there, that is absolutely a truth, if you want to call, is the sense of being, is your undeniable sense of the aliveness, livingness, this luminosity that making this show appear. And I guess that's what it's about in one way. That's the expression from here, and thanks for coming.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. And actually, yeah, there's a couple of really good points you touched upon. I loved when you defined that whole being as in itself being already a light, being luminous. And Jane was also talking about the pure gold and just discarding what is not it. And I did have, yes, I think mention before that I had sometimes people have questions. So this is something that I can't say is my experience, you know, the radiance or luminosity or the lightness of it, the delightfulness of existence, or just that, you know, the way of calling it enlightenment or calling it cognizing capacity or cognizing emptiness, it does in a way show that that luminosity, that radiance. But again, this is not the radiance, the knowing that comes from the computing, from calculating, from comparing, from the head stuff. And I had another conversation yesterday. It was lovely. Said, I'm not throwing names, but it was lovely said that especially people with really strong mind, really headstrong, they would have a really, really big trouble with the whole investigation, grasping, because the attachment and the appreciation from that biocomputer is so strong that even an idea of distrusting it or putting it aside is unthinkable. It's just nah. And he said, whatever is false will burn away in the fire of truth. So just exposure to that fire of truth, which doesn't burn in the mind. It burns in your heart. The knowing of existence, the lightness, the beingness, the luminosity of existence itself, the undeniable fact of being vibrant, of being alive, is not in the mind. It is the heart knowing, it's a gut knowing. It's not the intellectual, it's not based in a language. The little baby, when it's born, there is obviously a presence of consciousness, of that luminosity, of aliveness, even though there is no language, even though there is no concept of being a self or being a body or being anything at all. But that self-evident radiance is there. It's not a radiance which is to be objectified and found as something desirable and achieved or reproduced or faked it till I make it or whatever. It's a radiance that is already present. It's a radiance that not only doesn't have to be discovered because it's already shining in its full light. It's no one is less certain than 100% of existence. And that is really it. What song have you done? Oh, it's playing. And we have another couple of words of love and gratitude from Catherine and James. Thank you for hanging out with us. And anyone who's watching us online, please contribute. It is more flowy when people share. And anyone who didn't say anything and would like to, and we're not going to put the camera even if you want to speak. Would you? Not yet. Okay. Oh, hey man, wonderful.
Thanks. Thank you for everything. I found the frequency to tune in. Frequency of ordinary.
Yeah, that's the words of wisdom, ordinary. People look for super extraordinary, for very pleasurable, enlightening, ecstatic, blissful. There's nothing wrong with looking for bliss and ecstasy. That's the nature of the mind, to always chase pleasure and avoid pain. But tuning into the ordinary, This is an ordinary awareness. It is the everyday, common variety, garden variety, Bob would call it, garden variety capacity of knowing that everyone already has fully developed ordinary awareness. And it is happening only presently.
I haven't fully developed it yet.
Yes, you
It's
might.
in the process.
You might believe you haven't developed,
You are that.
but it is there. It is there. The capacity for knowing of existence. You know that you exist. And that is the capacity in opposition to every other knowing that is self-evident presently. You can't know that you exist tomorrow. It will have to be a present knowing. You can't know that you exist intellectually. It is a present, non-conceptual, ever fresh awareness. And the great scriptures or the ancient truth pointers and wisdom says it is just this and nothing else. Nothing else is true. Nothing else is real. Only the ever fresh presence awareness. Just this and nothing else. Everything else, the nama rupa, the name and form, the shape, the changing moods, the changing knowledge, the knowledge that I will have, the knowledge that the dream character has lost or let go of, all of that is changing. It's not the reality. It's not ever fresh. It's what is a content, is the phenomena. It's what comes and goes. It's to be here for the little kiss that we can blow it, to be appreciated, to be acknowledged. But it is not the truth. It is not the reality, because reality is eternal. It is that never changes. It is that which is presently always here whenever you look. The reality of the fact that you can't find the self. Yesterday, tomorrow, in a million years, every time you look, there is no self. But what is there? The presence, the awareness of presence, the 100% certainty of existence. It is there. Nothing needs to be done for it to be there. It doesn't need acknowledgement. Even without the acknowledgement, it is there, shining of its own light, luminous with its own radiance, mysterious because it is ungraspable. It can't be objectified, but it can't be denied. And I had another conversation when the man I was speaking with, he was saying that, a few pointers that he really, really grasped and they really penetrated and they really serve on a daily basis, in a daily life, constantly. They just really seen through. But there are other pointers that don't. And we had the same situation in our Zoom groups. There would be people who say that, I can't say this is my experience. I can't say this one, but, every pointer shows the direction. No pointer is true. No pointer is the truth. There is no reality in anything that can be spoken. There is no reality in the language. Pointer is only like a finger showing the moon. It's a general direction. And if you've seen through, or if one pointer resonates, then you know the general direction. And the general direction is all that ever is. General direction is no within, no without. General direction. Are you 100% certain that you are? Yes. Okay, one pointer is obvious, clear and obvious for everyone. Any other pointer clear and obvious? What's wrong with right now? If I don't think, yep. Okay, so that's also general direction to the fact that there is non-conceptual awareness. Even without the thought, there is non-conceptual awareness. That's a general direction. General because it's not very specific. Because as Dean was saying, you can't put the point. You can't write the circumference. It's nothing that you can, there is no location to that luminosity of existence, the lightness of existence, or that gold of pure being. And at the same time, that is undeniable. It is undeniably there. But the point is, you don't need any more than that. You don't need 5, 10, 20, 100 ways of showing that general direction. Every pointer points to the same general direction of the non-conceptual, ever-fresh presence awareness, of pure, uncontrived singularity, or cognizing emptiness, or intelligence energy, or Satchit Ananda. Every pointer shows to the same one, because there is only one, there is not even one. So the general direction for that which is beyond existence and non-existence, beyond even objectifying it as one, as oneness or unified field of one, or, you know, what I like to use is the field of infinite possibilities, which is neither zero nor one nor infinity. Nothing can be really said about it. Pointing to that, every single pointer, the pointer which Bob uses, you are not the body. The point which he says, oh, you say my mind in the language. Obviously, it points out that you're not it, but there is a tool or possession of something. And what is it? The pointers that breaks everything into one energy, vibrating into different waves and patterns and forms and shapes. All of those pointers are showing the same general direction. There is no need to know and resonate with more than one pointer. And sticking with that one pointer, I know that I am. That is it. It is already clear. Everything else is rubbish. Just this, nothing else. Discard the rubbish, as Jane was saying. Know what or who you are not. Just question and discard the rubbish. And even the one who discards the rubbish, it feels like there has to be someone who does the work. No. That the same way as that has to be someone who is breathing, right? No. There's someone who is reigning. No. If there is a resonation with the invite to discover or to investigate, then investigating happens. Even if part of that process of investigating contains the imaginary self taking credit for it to start with. In the process, as the young man told me yesterday, oopsie, I wrote it down because I loved it. Whatever is false will burn away in the fire of truth. So when that investigation, invited through the pointer or resonation, takes place, even though there may be the imagined self taking credit for it, it will burn away in the fire of truth. And at the end of the investigation, it's clear and obvious that even though there was a seeming self doing it, there really wasn't. It was just the happening, unfolding, just the same way as heart beating. So, investigate. Who cares? If there is resonation, it will happen. If there isn't, there is no problem with that either. Thank you, Dean. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Kat.
Thank you.